All right, so we're on the brand new bike. This is the 2020 Stumpjumper by Specialized. It is a 29er and it's size XL. I decided to go up a size on my bike. I was looking at footage before on my older bike. On a large, it looked like I was cramped up. This bike feels really open and like proportionately just so much better. Full suspension obviously, which a lot different than what I'm used to riding. And we're testing it here at Chuck Lennon. This trail in particular is pretty windy, just cross-country single track. Whenever we get over to the other side, which is the main loop, Raccoon Run and the blues and reds over there, they're more technical, feature-rich riding. This one over here, I think is called Awesome Possum. It is just like a windy XC loop, testing out the capabilities of this bike on this sort of stuff. And I'm gonna let you know my first impressions. So this is the 2020 Specialized Stumpjumper Alloy 29er. I believe it's the short travel version. I will put the full-on description in the video right now. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is a lot different than what I was used to riding. But I haven't seen many reviews on this low-end trim model. Like, every review of every bike that I see is always of the highest end, like $5,000 carbon bike. And personally, I'm not gonna do that. Maybe one day if I had $5,000, but I'm really frugal with my money, so buying this one was pretty difficult, but I had to make it happen because I had the opportunity. Like I said, this is a first impressions. This is not a review. I'm just telling you what I feel right off the bat from a rider who has been riding a very budget-friendly hardtail for the past year. So if you're looking for like a new full suspension, this is probably a really good spot to start. Climbs pretty well too. So I'm gonna cover quite a bit about this bike from the cockpit down. Could be a long video, I'm not really sure how long it's gonna be, but that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna talk about all of the features from the cockpit down. And to start, let's go with the handlebars and the cockpit in general, just how it's set up. This is dependent on your bike shop, who assembles it, or yourself if you buy it and you put it together. But this thing comes with 780 millimeter bars. It has Tektro hydraulics, and it's a 1x setup, which I think they improved from the previous years. There was a 2x on this lower end model. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I have seen some that have the 2x, which I don't really like. So you have a dropper lever on your left hand of the bar, and then on the right hand of the bar you have a shifter, which is SRAM. I think it's a 11 or a 12 speed, and if you haven't ridden SRAM before, It is a little bit different. I'm still trying to figure it out. There's two shifters, and you push them both in to make the gear shift. And it feels a little bit weird if you're not used to it, since the one shifter lever is far behind the front shifter lever. But all in all, I'd say the cockpit feels pretty good, and it's well proportionate if you are getting an XL. I'm not sure if they give you the 780 bars on a large or a medium, but on the XL, since I have a bigger wingspan and whatnot, it feels really good, and I'm not going to change it. It just feels right. So I'd say that the control from the cockpit standpoint feels really good. Like, I feel like I'm in pretty good control here, and it feels like I have the ability to make the maneuvers that I want happening to happen. It does really well on these short, like, bursty climbs in Florida that we have. I've seen some other reviews that say it doesn't feel that great on the climbs, but compared to my hardtail, and obviously it's gonna create some controversy, but it feels better than on my hardtail because I'm not getting shook off the bike from the roots, because that's typically, like, the Florida climbs is like a lot of roots, and with this it kind of tracks the roots. You don't have to worry so much about the impact from them, so that's why I feel like it climbs really well. But let's move on from the cockpit and move down to the fork. So this is a RockShox Recon, and it has the black coating, which is really cool. The previous year models have the silver coating, and that's not so cool. It's kind of just like personal preference, but I think it looks really stealth and nice, especially since they're offering it on the lower end model like this one. I think it's a 130 travel, but I'm not gonna say what it is. I'll just put it on here. It feels really good and quite nice on these roots and all these bumps and chatter in Florida. But it also feels like it'll work well in like a proper mountain biking trail like North Carolina or anywhere else I'd like to go. So that's kind of why I bought this bike. I wanted something that could be utilized elsewhere and also be upgraded and customized. So that's why I went with the lowest model, and for what I paid, it's so good of a price that it's really not even a low-end bike to me. Somebody who's been riding like a really low-end bike, this is like high tech. So yeah, the fork feels great, no complaints with it, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It makes you feel like you're on a smooth train, and can't complain about that. So these are the Specialized tires. I've got the Eliminator on the front and the Purgatory in the back. They don't feel really special by any means, and they are not set up tubeless. So take that for what you will. The tires and wheels on any bike stock are always something that could be changed out and improved on. So I'm just taking them and using them until they break. They feel fine, like they'll do the job. But like I said, I've already had some instances where I'm kind of washing out in the corners that are flat. The dropper post I can't complain about. Like I said, pretty straightforward, and it works, does the job. This is a first impression, so it's working right now. I'll let you know in a few weeks if it's still working as well as it is today. The seat definitely feels good. It's very minimal and very modern looking. It's pretty hard, so if you're gonna ride without like a bib or something, then just prepare for that. You could do it, but it's not very comfortable without one. And now we're down to the bottom bracket and crank set. Nothing special with that. It's a square taper bottom bracket because it is the lowest end trim, and they don't want to put the nicer Holotech style, I don't know what they call it, but I'm pretty sure it's just Holotech style bottom brackets on the, I guess it's just a threaded bottom bracket now. It's not Holotech, it's threaded. But yeah, this is a square taper and it does the job. Very robust, so I'm just gonna ride it until I break it or something and then upgrade it. The crank arms themselves are just the same, very robust. Nothing really to complain about other than the weight, but I'm not really too interested in that. I think I've covered the majority of the topics, and I'm gonna end it on disc brakes. The brakes on it, you know what they feel like. Again, this is the lowest trim, so it's gonna have the lowest end components, but they are a lot higher end components than what you would find on a budget bike. So it has Tektro hydraulics, and I've only ridden mechanical brakes, so taking that into consideration, these feel great. Although I do feel a bit undergunned on this bike. Like, the brakes feel just a bit like there's something missing in them. And I rode the one higher model up than this bike, which had Shimano mineral hydraulics, and those felt amazing. Like, you could really feel the progression through the brakes with the, you know, with the touch on the lever. With these, you don't really feel that. It is different to ride with them because if you were riding mechanical brakes before on like a budget bike, then riding hydraulics is different in that you have like a pull through engagement. So the harder you pull, the more engagement there is. And the same could kind of be said about mechanical brakes, but with mechanical brakes you don't get like any different amount of like resistance on the brake. It's just all or nothing, and you feel like you're pulling harder, but it's just engaging the brake like it's supposed to be engaged. With these, you pull gently and it reacts gently. If you pull hard, it reacts really hard. So it's one thing to take away from this. And also, they didn't feel that great. I mean, they don't feel that great. I'm still getting used to them, so maybe they'll start to work a little bit more as I wear them in. But first impressions, that's what I have for you. Let's wrap this up and just talk about it overall as a first-time rider, and just, you know, first-hand opinion. The bike feels really good. Seems like it does really well once you get it up to speed, which I have heard. Like, it feels way more active and progressive whenever you have it up to speed, as opposed to just, you know, moseying through the trail. Like, I don't think this is a trail bike to get if you're just going to be riding it like for hobby and you don't want to rip the trail, because it just feels way better when you're going fast on it. And just in my short experience on it thus far, that's what I could tell. It shifts really well with this SRAM setup, and like I said, I haven't had any experience with SRAM before. It feels really crisp and clicky, which I actually like. Maybe I'll be a SRAM person now, but it feels great. Again, first time riding on the trail, so could go to all down the toilet after a few weeks, which I will keep you informed about. But the only real negatives I have so far are the fact that the tires are a little bit less stable, in my opinion, than what I was riding. I was riding a 2.8, so that's something that I'm just had to get used to. They have washed out a few times now on the trail, and like I said, probably just comes down to the tire choice that's on here. But I'm going to ride them and see what they feel like for the first few months that I have it. And then also I've noticed some pedal strikes, so I feel like that's different. I'm not used to pedal strikes because I've been on a hardtail, and hardtail equals very little pedal strikes because there's no pedal bob. And so that's just something I also had to get used to on this bike. Oh, that was a one-hander drop in. That was kind of frightening. Oh, I was trying to put on sunglasses at the same time. So the pedal bob is there. It's not as bad as it used to be. I have an older full suspension bike from Diamondback, and that thing feels like very bizarre to ride if you're coming from a hardtail, because it has so much pedal bob. This one feels like it has really good traction everywhere, like even from a standstill, just pedaling, it doesn't feel too bad. But there are moments when it does bob out, and feel like it's usually when you're putting the power down over something, and that's when I'm getting pedal strikes on it. So again, just something to be aware of, but it's definitely not a bad thing, just something I have to get used to, and that's what I wanted to let you know about. I hope that you enjoyed this first impressions of the 2020 Stumpjumper 29er, and you got something from it. If you're a potential buyer or somebody in the market for a full suspension, definitely suggest this bike for the price. And to send you off, I have a section of trail up here that I used to absolutely hate on a hardtail because it was just so bumpy and not fun. And I'm gonna ride it right now on this thing, see what it feels like compared to my hardtail. Don't forget to go out there and create your own adventure however you can. Spread some positivity, and I'll see you on the next one.